if he came on a tunnel and go, Avengers, I've heard you're trying to defeat me. Let me tell you my 5-step PowerPoint plan on how I'm going to stop you.
Is he Bane?
Yeah, why do you sound like Bane?
I know the human being and fish can coexist peacefully.
Hello and welcome to the Spoilt Milk Movie Podcast. Here at Spoilt Milk, we discuss, dissect, and destroy movies, especially guilty pleasures. Then we decide if it's truly spoilt milk or if it's ascended into a fine, luxurious cheese. So without further ado, let's go.
Warning, this podcast is full of spoilers for the title feature and there's bad language from the start. If you've never seen the film or you're offended by bad language, you have been warned.
Hello and welcome back to this extra special Avengers episode of the Spoilt Milk Movie Podcast, where today we're going to be talking about Infinity War and Endgame. We will try our best to keep it fairly narratively on track, but we might go off here, there, and everywhere. If you haven't seen either of these films, please do stop and go and watch them. One, because they're definitely worth watching, and two, we're going to go into full spoilers. Fully Tony Stark dies. Kind of spoilers.
Whoa! What?
Gamora dies.
Yeah.
This is our
Black Widow dies.
super rubber bubber bumpy episode. I can't think what he says in Last Action Hero, but that.
Rubber baby boogie bumper.
That's it. Super rubber baby bubber bump. I can't say it.
Well, spoiler alert, the kid from Iron Man 3 comes back.
And saves the day.
So do you want to talk us through a synopsis, Hobo?
I don't, but I will. And I have a go at Catty for not being here. So, the overarching story is all the MacGuffins in the previous films in the MCU are actually usually Infinity Stones, which are these big things that are origins from the galaxy, which I think is explained in like Guardians of the Galaxy 1.
Well, one of them's kind of like a sludge more than a stone, isn't it?
Yeah.
To quote Thor.
I like that Thor, it says like, that's it, so correct that in the future. And then immediately calls it a stone like 2 seconds later. So yeah, they're all big, all these MacGuffins are all these big powerful gems. And Thanos, a big, bad, Grimace-looking, muscly Grimace. So Grimace has gone to the gym and worked out.
Full sack chin.
Yeah, full sack chin. And if anyone who doesn't know who Grimace is, you haven't been paying much attention to the marketing of McDonald's. He's like, I want to own them because I want to wipe out half of everything because we're using up all the resources on Earth. Just like we are now with planet Earth. We are using it all up, and there's not enough to go around, so people will live a happier life if I just like get rid of half of people, like half of humanity, half of any alien species, so there's more stuff out there for people to share around and no one goes hungry. That's his happy goal. I want no child to go hungry. I don't want
the alive ones.
Yeah, I don't want war over resources or anything like that. So I'll just kill half of everything. It's a nice thing up until the last part. I feel the last part he kind of
tips over the edge.
Yeah, he didn't have any checks. Like, it's like, this is a good plan. This is a good plan. Yeah,
but he believes he's doing a good thing. It's scary.
Yeah. And I imagine if we saw what he'd seen, and he'd seen probably people, malnourished, just starving, and I mean, you can't say that wars aren't fought over land and resources, and so there is a point to that. But he's forgetting the factor of humanity and other alien worlds. It's just a bit of a flaw of sentient life that you fight over these things. So yeah, that's his job. So we bring in all the people from the MCU to be like, oh, I'm going to stop you. That's a bad man, bad plan. That we stop the plan. And they know about that because Hulk, who got his ass kicked, gets sent back to Earth, and he tells them that Thanos has already killed like half of the Asgardians, and as far as he's aware, he's killed Thor, and he's killed Loki. So a big bad guy in the first Avengers movie. So what better to start out this third Avengers movie than kill off the bad guy in the first Avengers movie?
That hurt though, because the way he's like, and there's no comebacks after this.
Yeah.
Like, just to make everyone aware that my precious Loki is not coming back.
All right. Loving Loki. But yeah, Loki does have a fake out in the second Thor. He pretends to die and then comes back. So yeah, it is a good way of trying it out, and that's where we are. I think I've said all. I can go on, but I think I'll just be explaining the plot.
That's a good synopsis.
Yeah.
And we pick up straight after Thor Ragnarok, don't we? As he's saved as many people from Asgard as he can. And then, we're introduced into Thanos. So what's your overall opinion of Thanos across the whole, what do we want to call it? The Infinity Gauntlet Saga, or
the Infinity Saga?
Yeah, the Infinity Saga.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Thanos?
He's a dick.
He's a dick. Yeah.
So I took my little brother to see Infinity War, and bearing in mind at that time he was 10, and walking out of the cinema, he just sort of says, "Oh, I feel really bad for Thanos, and does that make me feel bad?" And it was like a really like, whoa, like this kid is really deep.
Yeah.
And it's strange how a director or writer can make you feel like that, because what he's doing is wrong. It's borderline Hitler. He wants to make the world a better place by doing a lot of wrong. So you could say he has good intentions, but he's just not quite there yet. So he's a bad guy, in my opinion. But yeah, it's just strange how a lot of people were like, you kind of feel sorry for him. You even got forums where people are rooting Thanos.
Yeah. Thanos did nothing wrong in a known hashtag.
Because the whole thing is, he wants to just do that and then just work on a farm, and then he pretty much does it. And you see that at the end of Infinity War Part 1.
Infinity War, and at the start of Endgame, he is just on his farm.
So he's said he's not going to do any harm after he does the snap, which is when he clicks a gauntlet and everyone half of the Earth disappears. And
Spoilers,
he kept his word. So you see what I mean? I feel like I'm defending him, but I do think he's a bad guy. I hate what he did. I'm not.
Why are you on the side of Hitler?
I'm not on the side of Space Hitler because he killed my Loki.
Did you know Hitler liked dogs?
I don't care.
You like dogs.
I'm not Hitler. But yeah, I personally think, he had good intentions, but he just didn't construct them very well.
Yeah, it's weird how there's been this reaction to Thanos, and it's odd how he goes on this weird. Well, it is an arc in his story, but it's weird how it goes over. It crosses time and space, and he goes through this point where the start of the film he's at his most villainous, and then you kind of soften to him over the course of the film. Weirdly. And he's almost at his peak of his most empathetic point when he kills half of the universe. Yeah. And then you join him again. He's this old man Thanos on his farm eating pawpaws or whatever. And you kind of, again, he's nice to, what's her name? Nebula.
Oh, yeah.
And then they bring him back as a different version to make him this ultimate bad guy again. And it's just such clever storytelling and construction of a villain. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it.
You feel heartbroken for him when he has to kill Gamora to get the Soul Stone. And she's like, "Hi, you've never loved anything or anyone, so good luck getting that." And then you feel sorry for him, but he really did love Gamora. I guess, yeah.
And it was such a good and very believable turn of going, so you kill off Thanos in the start of Endgame. Where do you go from there?
Yeah.
You've still got this older version of Thanos who hasn't achieved his full dream yet, so he's still very hungry for it. And when he sees what he becomes, one, he sees that he can achieve his dream. And then two, he gets a glimpse of his life. And when you're at your most hungry, seeing yourself at your most frail is something generally most people will fight against. So that's why he becomes worse than he was before, worse than we've seen it, because he's fighting against his future that he thinks is inevitable. And he wants to, I mean, if he achieves his dream, he can stop it. He can change time. He has ultimate control, and he just knows he won't destroy the stone. So this idealism that he's got in the first film, by the end of the second film, is gone because he's seen exactly what he wanted.
Yeah, that's actually really, I never even thought about it that way. That's a really good observation, Hobo.
What I think as well with the start of Infinity War, when the Hulk comes to Doctor Strange, and like Tony's there and everything, what like puts everything into perspective and picture is when the Hulk's like, New York, that was Thanos. And then that like immediately sets Tony to like, I'm going to fucking get him.
Yeah.
Like, because obviously everyone who's seen the MCU films, like Tony gets like severe anxiety and panic attacks after going up into that hole in New York.
Yeah. And the second one, he's having dreams of all the Avengers dead. And that's why he builds Ultron, because he's trying to protect. He's seeing what happens with Infinity War and Endgame, and he's trying to protect against that.
And he talks about the suit of armor around the world in Endgame as well that he mentions in. Is that in Ultron?
Yeah.
It's just such clever storytelling.
Yeah.
Over 11 years, however many films, 23, 24, is it 23 now? And the way that they've held off with Thanos, and you've had these little glimpses of him in I can't remember which one it is that he pops.
Avengers.
Is it the end of
the end of the first Avengers?
Right.
Because there's a really nice line, which this is again, it's when Whedon was doing it, who is comics massive anyway, and so his version of Thanos would have probably been more comic accurate, which isn't the version of Thanos you necessarily get now.
Right.
So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. If Whedon had the level of control that I forgot who the director Russo's had, then we would have definitely got great Avengers. Like the second one is only bad because he got a lot of interference from the studio,
right? Okay,
and he couldn't work with them very well.
Hadn't he built up enough goodwill at that point?
This is so unless the Russos are just better at working, like they still have the same level of input, but they just work around it in a different way. So I think with Whedon's version, because I mean the first Avengers is amazing, it's a masterpiece, and he sets up these like long shots. If we had Whedon's version of this trilogy, I don't think it would have been the same at all. It would have been my point is the line is to court with Earth is to court with death. And Thanos turns around and smiles, because in the comics books, he's obsessed with death.
Oh yeah, is it Hela?
He has a love affair with the comic book version of death. So it's not actually Hela in the comic books. There's Hela who is death in the Asgardian universe, but there's also death as well, from what I remember. So everyone thought they were going to combine that in this and make Hela the death that he's obsessed with. So then he could have, and they've still, right up until like close to when it's coming out, before, maybe that's going to be the storyline that, especially with Ragnarok bringing in Hela. He's like,
I feel like Hela went too soon. She was such an amazing bad person.
I hope they bring her back.
It really would have been good if I think maybe Whedon would have done that. He would have been combined that and had Hela and stuff, but maybe we would have got, and Kate Blanchett.
I'm glad that Joss Whedon isn't involved at this point, because I think he did a really good job. But I think Loki is his type of villain. You could almost plonk Loki in Buffy and he'd work in that kind of environment. Whereas I think like he didn't seem to do so well with Ultron when it started getting into bigger otherworldly ideas. I know that's weird because he did Buffy, but I don't know. I like the more rounded version of Thanos that's not such like a comic book villain.
So not a comic book villain. Like he's more human.
Yeah, and he's got a... Yeah, I don't know where to pick up from that one.
You said you like the version of Thanos that's more well-rounded comic book villain that the Russos were doing rather than...
Yeah, so I think Joss Whedon's very good at doing villains that are a bit like sarcastic and a bit theatrical and almost Shakespearean. And he does have elements of this Thanos in the new one, but I don't know if his style would have lent as well to this and if he would have made it a bit more comic-y and a bit more of a thespian.
Yeah, there's always that worry. Like what we're saying when we did the other top three with where you really liked Thor as the third film. And I was saying I really liked the first Thor because it's a completely different world. Again, I would have liked to seen Whedon's Avengers, but I by no means would also give up this version. I love this trilogy or quadrilogy of...
Quadrilogy, I like that.
1 and 2, so Infinity War and Endgame are both separate films and they are one solid film.
Yeah.
I don't know how they managed to do that. Endgame suffers a bit more than Infinity War does. Like Infinity War, you could just watch it and be like, it's a film where the bad guy wins. It's just...
It's my favourite Marvel film. Out of all of them, Infinity War, I think, is the best. It absolutely rattles along at it's such a fast pace, but never, not in a distracting way. You can just... I've seen it so many times. I must have seen it into double figures now because I saw it at the cinema 7 times, or maybe 6. And I've definitely watched it a bunch of times. Every time if I'm turning over Sky and it's on, I can't help but watch, keep watching it because it jumps from one bit to the next bit and you're watching it and there's the bit that you were saying about in New York and then the Guardians come in and you're like, oh, what a breath of fresh air.
As soon as you hear that music from the Guardians, it's done so well. I love how you're expecting all these big names in one film. And you're so excited to see how each character reacts with the other and to finally see it. And then just, this my favorite part is just as soon as the Guardians come in and you hear the music because I love the soundtrack to both the Guardian films.
And then when Thor joins them as well.
Oh my gosh. That's
describing Thor's skid
pirate baby.
That when they called him a pirate angel baby or something like that, it felt like they were taking your description of him. How would you describe him? Oh, well, I describe him.
He is just a god.
I'm really intrigued to see where they go with that after Endgame.
Yeah, massively.
Just quickly then. So, what was each of yours first reaction to the end of Infinity War when Thanos does the snap and you see all these people disappear, and you find out that's it? There's no more end of the film. Even when the snap's happening, based on how long the film is, this is the end. We're not undoing this.
Laura, do you want to go?
I was like, oh my God. I got a bit emotional. But I got emotional as soon as Loki died. I won't let that go. No, it was shocking for me. But in a way, because there's so many additional members to the Avengers that when people are sort of disappearing after the snap, you're like, oh, so they're whittling it down to the OG Avengers. So it's up to them to get everyone back. So there's another film ahead. So you sort of think, who's going to come back and who isn't. And obviously the rule of thumb is everyone after the snap does. And my favourite part obviously was right at the end where Nick Fury's paging Captain Marvel. So it sets it up for then Captain Marvel and I'm just like,
But severely underused in the second one, which maybe we'll come on to.
Yeah.
What was your...
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it, when you listen to podcasts and you read film websites and you know that there's a sequel. It's hard to kind of separate yourself from what you know is happening in the movie world, and to see all these characters die. I remember sitting there and being like, oh, they've really gone for this. They're really they're going he's done it. They've not chickened out. But I was like, but they're coming back.
Yeah.
And it was as soon as like Peter Parker, and I'm like, you are Marvel are not investing in rebooting the whole of and bringing Spider-Man in just for a bit in Civil War and one Spider-Man film. And I hate that because I also love knowing what's going on, but that also ruined it a bit as well. But then I stopped and tried to think about, it's not about what I know, it's what the characters know.
Yeah.
And Tony Stark doesn't know that there's going to be Spider-Man Far From Home. He is genuinely losing his
That's
little
such
prodigy.
a good moment, though, when he's like, Mrs. Stark, Mrs. Stark,
Yeah.
oh my God.
Well, I suppose the best example of that is, while the information's out there, the people that don't know, even though the information's out there, that what's going to happen is kids.
Yeah.
So your little brother, when he was watching everyone
I don't have a little brother.
I glanced over to Laura's direction, which isn't visible on the
I
podcast.
thought the international sign was, if you don't look at me, you are talking to
Oh,
me. Is that not how it goes?
I should have been like, Laura, your little brother.
That sounds really creepy.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Stay away from Zach.
Tell me about your little
So
brother.
did he not know at all then?
He didn't know at all. So he adores Black Panther.
Yeah.
So that was...
Who doesn't?
That was just crazy.
Mm.
And yeah, that really hit him.
Mm.
But the whole way through, he was just like, in Infinity War, he was like, but Tony's okay.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, he is. And even in Infinity War, I'm like, Tony's going to be all right. It's Tony. And obviously, spoiler, Endgame.
Well, in Infinity War, he gets stabbed. So he's not, he's
Yeah.
alive, but he's wounded.
Yeah.
He's badly wounded and he has no suit and he's on a planet. Like, you think,
Yeah.
is
Zach,
he okay?
he grabbed my arm in the cinema when Tony got stabbed. And yeah, I was just like, so yeah, it was difficult.
So what other things do you want to talk about through Infinity War?
For me, I just think the characters growing together and learning to get on with each other. Is it Infinity War where Thor gets Stormbreaker?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like a badass moment.
It's where Peter Dinklage comes in and they make the
For returning in that lightning bolt fashion and just like kicking. I mean, setting up how we made Stormbreaker was already godlike. They really set his power level, saying like, this is a guy who can take on Thanos. He's taken on the power of the sun. It's more accurate because in earlier Avengers films, they try and make sure the Guardians aren't too overpowered. They're like, people refer to us as gods. I wonder if they know how fallible we are. So they kind of set up that, they're not complete gods. They are mortal in some way. But then at this point, like with Thor in particular, because he is the son of Odin, like he is more powerful. And they set this up perfectly that he is so powerful enough that he can do this. And yeah, I loved it.
There were a few moments that I nearly peed myself at.
What, do laughter or because it's so long?
Excitement and laughter.
Excitement and laughter.
Yeah.
So what were your like exciting points where you were just hairs on the back of your neck going, like?
I think towards the start where Vision is in Edinburgh. Is it Edinburgh?
Yeah.
And obviously those, was it Thanos' children?
He's in Scotland.
Scotland.
Well, Cham, I was really hoping you'd do
Go
a
on,
Scottish
do a Scottish accent.
I can't do a Scottish accent.
You
I
did
just did Sean Connery.
Yeah.
He doesn't sound like Scottish people.
Do a Sean Connery
No,
Scotland.
I'll do it in a bit.
Sorry, anyway, go on.
So when Thanos' children are coming to get the Infinity Stone, which is on Vision's head.
Are you going to say the bit I think you're going to say?
And then, Scarlet Witch? Her accent changes magically,
God, yeah.
but I won't mention that.
It's magic.
And then, you're like, oh my God, they're going to die. And then the train goes by, and then you hear that music, and then Captain America appears with his beard. And it's just,
They almost could have just lit his beard.
Yeah. I'm getting really hot and sweaty now.
Me too.
It's really warm.
Me too.
Do you reckon you can do the music that plays then?
Because
it was a big thing after, I think maybe the second Avengers, people were really saying two things about the MCU. It was great, but there's two things. One, the colour palette is a bit washed out in a lot of things, which Ragnarok fixes. It's very colourful. And the soundtrack. The soundtrack is really forgettable up until that point. And I think by Infinity War, they really do fix that. I don't think I can get it exactly on, but I definitely know it more than I did.
But films don't really do that anymore. Apart from like Harry Potter, you don't really find modern films where they have a hummable theme. Avengers is probably, I mean, it's taken them 11 years to get something across that you're like, oh yeah, I know this. Spider-Man, that's been around for years, since the 60s, so you get it. But if you think about John Williams and all the classics that he's rattled out, you don't really get that in cinema anymore.
Yeah.
We're going to go straight into Endgame at this point. So Endgame starts with that amazing Hawkeye sequence. Am I the only one who thinks that was a really good way to start this film?
Yeah. It's showing the effects of Thanos' snap more siloed, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and personal. It's a really nice way. How do you feel about Hawkeye, by the way? A lot of people don't like him, think he's shit, think he's a waste of a character.
I like him because I know obviously there's more to her, but Black Widow was shooting handguns in the first Avengers at these aliens. So he's got arrows that turn into bombs. He's more relevant than Black Widow in the first Avengers. So he is a trained agent and he's called Hawkeye.
And I think I'd feel is less relevant if we'd done such a good job in the second film. And they kind of made him the heart of the Avengers. This is like, you're Iron Man. Yeah, sure, you've got Pepper Potts, but generally you're just a billionaire. You're fine around. You got all this Captain America, or you
Captain America
years ago, like, you don't have any. And it just seemed a bit like all over the place. But then Hawkeye was a very human element of this, and even though he didn't find out till now, he does have a family.
Yeah.
He is this, and he still gets to have this talk with Scarlet Witch, saying, like, I know you're scared, and that you're fine to be scared. And if you don't want to be a part of that, that's fine. I will protect you. But if you want to be an Avenger, if you want to help people, you need to step out there and you need to commit. And he both was the heart and mortality of the team, and just also an inspiring force for not just Scarlet Witch, but also people like Iron Man and Cap. You really saw that in the second one, they took stock of their lives based around him. So while he's not the most superpowered, he kept them down.
That's a lot.
Even Thor did, because Thor saw the family and then left, didn't he?
Yeah.
Just went back to, is it Asgard he went to?
He went to find out. I think it was a whole storyline that eventually got cut out, but I think he was finding out about something that he knew was happening with
the weird
Asgard.
flashbacks he was having.
So he was aware that something was happening with Asgardian and stuff like that, stuff that plays out in Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, so it hit home for him. I love it when he stands on the kids' toys. That was really funny. I thought I like Hawkeye.
Yeah, and they give him this like assassin story where he's like the Ronin, but it all builds up to his and Black Widow's scene where she dies. And first time watching this, how did you feel about the death scene?
It was heartbreaking, because when they divide off on where they're going, as soon as they say like them two are getting the Soul Stone, I was like, oh.
I didn't even think about that first time round. And I'm like, I didn't think about it. You did. Why didn't they? Like,
no, they didn't know about it.
They didn't know.
They knew that they...
No, all they knew is Thanos, and I don't think they fully knew this series of events, but the most they would have known is Thanos went there and didn't come back with Gamora. So at the most, they would think, oh, he decided to kill her there because he tried to betray him or anything like that. You're not going to think there's a bargaining that you need to do with someone that you love or anything like that. You have to kill someone. So, yeah, they didn't have that information. They figured out retroactively based on the information that they sort of had.
Yeah, I never really thought about that. So did any part of you think that this took away from the first film with Gamora, or because it was kind of just a replication of that sequence and they were just doing it again, or?
No, because they were fighting to be the ones that died. And that they sort of platonically love each other so much that he'd be willing, although his family are gone, they're trying to get them back. He's trying to protect her and she's trying to protect him.
And I think they set up well with having Black Widow be the one. She's still, at the start of Endgame, she's still like trying to protect people in the world. She's a bit of a, overseer of all these areas, and she's just saying to Captain America, like, this is the only family I've got. So when if you had said before setting up that, before having the Hawkeye Ronin moment and before having the Black Widow, saying this is the only family I've got while she's eating a sandwich, you'd say, put them on the soul, to get the soul stone. You'd be like, well, we can't. They're friends, don't get me wrong, but it's not like a powerful love or anything like that. We're just very close. And then you get a real sense of, no, these two, this is all they've got left, is probably they're the closest they feel to anyone is each other because they've worked together so long and everything else has been taken away from them.
You do see how close they are to each other though throughout the other films. So how Black Widow, they call Nat or Natalie. She knows about his family. And she's sort of saying, you're going to name the other baby after me because Hawkeye's wife is pregnant. And they always have these references about Budapest and other things. And so you see that they've got their own private jokes and they are really close. And for a while you think it's like a romantic interest. And then you see it's almost like a brother and sister love. So it's built up throughout the whole last few films.
There was just something about her death that on first viewing left me a little bit cold. I don't know if it's because, maybe they were doing the time travel thing to fix things and I was like, oh, maybe they can fix it. I was almost in the shoes of some of the characters in the film. And then the backwards and forwards part, I was like, who's going to do it felt a bit like it took away a bit from her moment. But it was only on second and third viewing that it kind of hit me more, that I was like, oh no, she is dying here. She's definitely not coming back. She's sacrificing herself. But yeah, that first time it was a bit jarring. Were you all right with it first time then? Or?
I wasn't all right with it, but it's going to sound really morbid, but it was really nice to see that this time around they were like, we're just going to take the characters that you do like away from you. It's not going to be like a happy ending.
I'd say my only problem is where it occurs is the fact that, and there's no way around it.
What, in the running time or
just
the actual location?
The running time. It happens right at the point where it's also going to pick up and they have to move on. They don't have more than a 2-minute scene.
It's very fleeting, isn't it?
To mourn her. And I do like that they did try and put in the mourning as much as possible, but it's not a moment. It's like having a war film and there's someone who dies like mid-battle, but you don't have the time for them to, because it's maybe the biggest battle of a war film or something like that. They die. Thinking of Saving Private Ryan, the person who gets a bullet through their helmet and dies instantly, trying to have a mourning scene for that guy isn't going to happen because you're still mid-battle.
Well, I was going to actually say more like Thin Red Line, which is my favourite war film. Like they cast all celebrities in all these big roles and then just killed them off, and some of them it was just a real quick passing. It's like, it doesn't matter if you're a celebrity, you're in a war film, you're going. And but even they didn't know, this is going into details about that film, but loads of people are kicking off because I thought I was the lead of the film.
Really?
Yeah, and they didn't know until the final cut came out. Some celebrities were just completely axed from it. That's why you get weird little 2-minute scenes with John Travolta, and then George Clooney turns up for one scene and Woody Harrelson. Oh, you know,
I've not seen it. No.
It's really good.
We should watch it.
But yeah, so that's. I think she's gone. She's got a film coming out, Black Widow.
She's got a lot of history.
It must be a prequel. So after the Hawkeye, we're kind of jumping over, but I think that's fine. If we're concentrating on a character. So after the intro, then we get Tony, his little moment on the ship, and then he reunites with Cap. And again, I'm just going to keep throwing questions at how do you feel about their reuniting, they're coupling back up.
It was done right. They're not going to be like, oh my God, this is so sad. I can't believe what's happened with the world. They've still got a lot of unfinished business and there's still a lot of bitterness between them. And obviously it's just difficult for both of them. And I think it's directed and acted really well.
I think you definitely sense the fact there's a lot of, they blame each other because they know them two not being in that maybe Infinity War. They obviously feel that they probably could have defeated him, even though that's not true. And we see by the end of Endgame that it isn't just them that can defeat him. They definitely feel like if they hadn't fallen out, they could have. So they blame each other, but the way they're dealing with that is by continuing to be angry at each other because they're angry at themselves, and that's the context of that scene that I got.
Tony's just about to ring him, isn't he, in Infinity War before the first attack on New York, on Bleecker. But yeah, it's dealt with really well. I wanted to ask, like, just from a physiological point of view, it says that he's in space for 21 days, I think it is. Would he have got that thin? Because you see him and he's all like emaciated and his ribs are showing.
Yeah, what
after 3 weeks?
The rule of 3. So you go with air for 3 minutes before you're completely dead.
And is it water for 3 days?
Yeah, and then food for 3 months.
So you hear Nebula say that the water supply or the air supply is going to run out soon.
Yeah.
So that's why he thinks he is going to die.
And so he probably hasn't eaten much in those, even that 21 days sort of thing. And I did like that they managed to get a bit of bonding between Nebula and Tony Stark in that intro bit. And that was very important to Nebula's character.
Yeah,
which
definitely.
is, I think... I know that we've built up like Captain America and Iron Man and stuff like that, but Nebula was a massive part of Infinity War and Endgame.
She was much more involved in this film than I ever expected she would be.
Yeah.
And it was done in a really nice way, and with the whole timelines later, it was good, and it was good to see.
And I feel there's a lot of payoff from the film that you don't like so much, Guardians 2.
Oh no, I like Guardians too. It's not as good as Guardians.
Okay.
So
that's fair enough.
Yeah. The time they spent in Guardians 2 of Gamora and Nebula having that sort of fight out reunion, it was like a sister, we just got to beat each other up a bit before we like each other again. We've got a lot of baggage in history, and that still so you don't need to have seen that, but it really helps seeing that baggage carry over to Infinity War and then Endgame, I think.
Yeah.
Next topic, Professor Hulk. So, because we've had Tony's come back, they've had their argument, and then they've separated, and before we go on to Professor Hulk, they take on Thanos, don't they?
Oh, yeah, they do. And
so Captain Marvel comes, she's like, let's just fucking go and get him.
Yeah.
I'm going to smash his head in, basically. They team up, they go out there, and he reveals that he used the stones to defeat the stones.
Yeah.
I know this is already something that's come up in the Spider-Man trailer, but I'm really wondering about where they're going to go with the whole... when they talk about the energy surge that came from the snap. And maybe that's something we can talk in for future films in the next part. But they go, they kill him.
Oh, he's done so well.
I was just like, what? Even as many films as I've seen, or all the things that I've read about things, and all the ideas I had going into this film, when he just lopped his head off in the first 15 minutes, I was like, oh.
Because isn't it in the Infinity War, Thanos says to, or is it in Endgame? I can't remember, where Thanos says to Thor, you should have aimed for the head.
Yeah, Infinity
Because
War.
he hits him and he chops his arm off instead. So for Thor to come back and then, is it fat Thor? Is he fat at this point?
He's thin.
He's thin still.
I won't even call him thin. He's buff.
Yeah, buff.
Sexy Thor.
Amazing.
He's always sexy.
Gorgeous. Abs.
All right, we only have
Thor.
so much time.
So yeah,
There's only so many words in the English language for it.
I've got plenty.
We'll go to the Asgardian language after this.
Yeah, and then Thor obviously chops Thanos' head off, and you just all think like, well, what are they going to do now?
Yeah. I thought that was him done. I really did. When at the end of the last one where it was like Thanos will return again or whatever, because it says something like that, I was like, oh, that's him. I was like, they've put that as like he's coming back in the next one, and now they're just changing things up by ending him.
This all plays into, and I know you hate it, but it's honestly why. And
you're not going to say How I Met Your Mother, right?
No.
Right, okay.
The Last Jedi.
Okay.
What I
don't
learned
hate
from
it.
the documentary making of The Last Jedi is what's the hardest point for your characters to go through? What's the thing that will make them learn the most? And the thing that will make the Avengers learn the most is, all right, this big bad guy did this horrible thing. What do? You want to defeat him? You defeat him. What do you do now? You can't undo what he's done. And the fact that they just make them live with that for 5 years, like you defeat him, they don't have a battle. Like if you drew out that battle for the entire film, it's like they're heading towards it.
Yeah.
Like, but you know how it's going to end. They're going to defeat Thanos because at the end of the day, it's a Marvel film. Generally, most films, we've had the ending that ends with a loss, so they're not going to do that again. So by putting that anywhere other than the start, it would have just been a boring film. What's the hardest journey for them? Hardest journey is they've defeated the big evil, but the consequences of the big evil are still lingering, and that's what that moment was. Why everyone was shocked. It's just.
But if they'd have taken the Last Jedi route, they'd have been like, right, we're going to go and send Thor to a casino. And he's going to go to, and then he's going to set free some camels.
They sent
for
Thor,
like half an hour.
They did. They sent Thor back to 4-2. The most panned film but I don't mind 4-2, but critically, it is panned as one of the worst films in the MCU.
It's
and they sent
not.
it back to it is.
It's
It is,
not
yeah,
the
everyone
worst
hates
film.
it,
I like the Thor trilogy.
Yeah, I like the Thor trilogy. It's
Hulk
the worst
is
of
the
three.
worst. Hulk is the worst.
No.
It is the worst. It is.
Hulk Ang Lee,
Yeah.
maybe.
No,
Incredible
that's good.
Hulk.
Ang Lee Hulk is good. You won't like me when I'm angry. That alone gets you.
Which one do you mean, Laura? Do you mean Hulk, the Ang Lee one, or the one with Edward Norton, Incredible Hulk?
Incredible.
Yeah.
It's dreadful. It's really bad.
It's so bad. Sorry.
But,
off topic.
no, I think that's good because I brought in Professor Hulk. So, yeah, they've killed Thanos at this point. We've gone to 5 years later, and Hulk is, because we had the whole last film of Ruffalo with no Hulk, trying to bring him out. I mean, apart from the first bit. And now it's just all Hulk. Professor Hulk. How did you feel about Professor Hulk?
It was so funny. Like, he was dabbing and he's wearing his specs. You know, it's great. He's learned to speak properly instead of like, me Hulk, all that. And I feel like it was a journey that that Banner and Hulk had to make together. So I personally think that he didn't come out in Infinity War because Hulk had his ego massively smashed by Thanos. Like, that punch he does, like, it's not even like a punch that knocked Hulk on the ground. You know, at the start of Infinity War, where he like punches him in like a pressure point or a muscle.
It like looks in the neck or something. I was
and
like, oh, that's
you
weird.
can see it really hurt him, and he didn't like knock. Like, he didn't like just throw Hulk on the floor. He actually physically hurt him. And I feel like Hulk had his ego massively hit. So that's why he just wouldn't come out in Infinity War. For them to actually make peace with each other. And then they're in Endgame. And he's like signing autographs and like...
Yeah. Well, that bit about the pressure point, I mean, I don't know how much they got from it, but I really feel they were reading a lot of comics. And there's a comic where it's so many years in the future where a load of nuclear bombs are going off and the whole world is like decimated, but Hulk set up a dome because he's the only one who can survive in the nuclear radiation zone. He sets up a zone for the rest of humanity to live in, and they live under his dome, but over time he becomes a tyrant. And And then they go back in time, bring back an older version of Hulk to fight the newer version of Hulk.
Yeah.
But this Tyrant Hulk can defeat Hulk with using pressure points. Because he says, like, I can disable you. And he essentially, like, he does some pressure points, but then snaps like a bit in his neck, saying it won't kill you, but it will paralyze you for X amount of time until you heal. And I know this because, I've lived so long and I've been in so many fights. I felt that was just a little callback saying we are still reading
I won't
comics.
be surprised, yeah.
Yeah. And there's loads of little things like that in all of it. Because it's any comic book movie does it. I think when we were talking about X-Men, there's little references like that was clearly a reference to comic. But some of them are forced, some of them are cheesy. But generally, the Russos have done nice little, very subtle nods, and we've just paid attention to what the character is.
I just love the comedy of it all as well. There's so many bits of comedy that we haven't spoken about in both the films as well, and they're just so great.
Yeah, because there's points. Like, you were talking about how things can be dated when we were talking about something else recently. But there was a couple of points in this where I was like, that might date it. Like, well, it went 5 years into the future. Yeah. And Thor was playing Fortnite, which I was a bit like, But then again, no one's creating, they're not creating new games.
And no one's going to care about playing games.
That's probably fine. Yeah. People probably would still be playing Fortnite. And the fact that Thingy did a dab, I'm like, well, one, people aren't probably going to be creating new things. And two, he's a dorky sance professor. So maybe
it's taken him 5 years to realise it's cool.
What did you think as well then about the 5 years? Because Ant-Man comes out, I've got a couple of gripes with this film. I really love it. Like, spoilers for, I think we're all probably going to say it's luxurious cheese, but the rat setting off the thing was a bit annoying.
That was the 1 in a million.
Yeah, so that was, But I'm like, he could have done something else. But when Ant-Man, sees that kid and he's like, what's going on? Where is everyone? And that kid, turns around and he's, close to tears. I'm like, it's been 5 years. Your whole family might have died, but I'm a little bit like, still 5 years later, I don't think if someone's like, what's going on, you're going to be like, he's already out tanning his BMX. How old do you think
that kid was as well?
Yeah, so he probably didn't even know, but he probably didn't even know his parents that well or whatever.
Oh my God. I disagree with you both.
What, you really think? So, in 2016, if someone was in New York and got a newspaper that had World Trade and was like, what's this to someone, they'd have been like, I reckon they'd have been don't you know me, pal?
2007, Charlie. You said 2016.
Shit, I thought it happened in 2011. It's 2001. Sorry, bad maths.
There's
Space Odyssey.
Loads of things, people don't get over it, do they? So, especially for a young kid.
Kids are resilient. Especially, he's 14. He's probably just thinking about, when can I next masturbate? Not about his dead parents.
Think about it. He's grown up in a really depressing time. His early. We're really going to this character.
Let's give him a name.
There's no proper poor John.
John.
Poor John. His life probably wasn't that great. Or it probably was to start with, and his parents might have all died. He doesn't have an education. He's got no future. He doesn't know where he's going. He's just got that bike.
The world's his oyster. He doesn't have to go to school.
He got no money.
He can basically, if he wants money, he can go into a shop. If he wants a new family, he can get one. He can do whatever he wants. It's like Little Monsters all over again.
Maybe I'm going to give him the John Wick backstory. So his parents...
I'm going to give John John Wick.
We're going to give him a puppy. And his parents were there, surrounding him, and his whole family was surrounding him, and they had a puppy. He'd wanted this puppy his whole time, and they were just giving it to him, and they all disappeared, including the puppy.
No, do you know what? If all the family lived and the puppy got dusted, then I get it. I get why he's so sad. Let's move on to Fat Thor. If that's what you want to call him, by the way, that's what the internet seems to have dubbed him.
Beer Belly Thor.
Beer Belly Thor.
Yeah. It doesn't have the same, and it begins with an A, when words with letters.
Do you mean alliteration?
Yes.
Yeah.
When words with letters.
But then you'd have to call him Fat Thor.
Fat Thor.
Oh, Fat Thor, yeah.
Fat Thor.
For
That Thor.
that
Thor.
Na, 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 na. He's Fat Thor.
Are you still attracted to the angel pirate god baby?
Yes.
That's creepy. I said baby last.
I know you meant Thor.
So he's put on a bit of weight. He's had a bit of a bad time of it. He's gone off to, it looks like Norway or Sweden or
That's
something.
where they said the new Asgard's
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
be when Odin died.
Because it had like a sign, didn't it, that said Asgard, and then beneath it had some, it looked
I
like
think
Norwegian or...
The actual place where they're filmed has got that sign now, and they're saying they're like booming
Nice.
with tourism. Like they're just loads of fans are already flocking to that location.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
that's nice. I always like it when films do that.
good.
I mean, I would hate it if I lived there.
Didn't look like many people lived there, though, did it? It was quite secluded.
That's kind of the good thing about living there.
Yeah,
That's
true.
what you go.
Yeah,
You don't
that's
live
it.
out in the middle of nowhere and go, I wish more people lived around
More
me."
tourists. Yeah, so did we like overweight Thor?
Again, I thought it was a strong point for his character.
Yeah.
It's just you get used to him. He's no longer he's a fighter by trade. He's bred in war. Is his problem in the first film that he was too much war and he had to learn about the fact that fighting isn't always the answer. But he was still a fighter at the end of the day. There wasn't a problem he couldn't fix with fighting, and guilt and shame is a problem you can't fix with fighting.
And how do you feel about certain comments that are out there about it being fat shaming and being like he is basically he's overweight in this film as a punchline, and all everything that he does is steered towards laughing at his beer belly? Or
I don't think it's laughing at the fact that there's a beer belly. It's laughing at the fact that he's a god and he's supposed to be perfect.
Yeah.
And their idea of perfect as an Asgardian, because if you look at all the Thor films, you don't see many larger people. They're just that, they seem to be that quotation mark, like perfect race. So for him to be imperfect with quotation marks, that's a shock for everyone.
so you think it's more about setting
It's his
up
character.
the idea of what a god looks like?
Yeah,
or-
yeah. And I think it's just because Thor is he's supposed to be the leader. He's supposed to come back from every knockdown he gets, and then the fact that he's obviously been knocked down by Thanos and he can't cope with the failure that he had. And it's more of a joke at his character instead of fat shaming.
Yeah.
I think one of the most important parts is that he's overweight, but he stays overweight throughout his whole story journey in this film. And I kind of half expected them to, when he gets to the end battle and the lightning strikes and everything, for him to go back to ripped Thor. And I thought the way that they kept him in the same physical condition and he still was worthy and could still win a battle, it kind of proved that they weren't just fat shaming him.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And maybe, it was a bit about his alcoholism.
What I remember reading, there were some executives or somewhere were trying to push him to be in shape again for the final battle, but they really wanted to make sure. And I think it wasn't just the fact that he was fat. They really played in heavily the references to Big Lebowski. That he's not just overweight, he's become a waster. He is not doing anything with his life. He's just sat gaming and
Shouting at children on the internet.
which is great. And I
Eating
think
licorice all sorts, which I thought was weird.
that's where a lot of the laughs came from. It wasn't like people were laughing at his belly, but it was like a laugh at his belly. And I think maybe a laugh when reactions to his belly came up. But generally, the most of it was just his attitude to
Life.
And it was a visual representation of where he's become. It wasn't he is fat, so he is lazy. He is lazy, so he's become fat.
So it was the same as when he used Stormbreaker to open his beer, and it's like, that's where he's at. He's like,
exactly.
the amount of effort he put into taking on the force of a star or whatever in Infinity War, and then using it to crack open his beer
out of
while
character.
he shouts at, is it Noob, whatever, Noob 512 or something.
I didn't even think about that, the correlation of the amount of effort he used to make that weapon to then opening them.
His innocent gun.
Chief Wiggum opening a can of beer with his gun style.
It really is.
And it's absolutely great. And I don't think there's any fat shaming. It's the fact that
It's Thor shaming.
it's laughing at someone who's become lazy, who has got everything.
Yeah.
And I think they do a good job of also handling it as a mental state as well. A bit they don't shy away from the fact that
Hemsworth's just so good.
Yeah.
They really landed on their feet with him because he looks the part. Like he is absolutely like
sexy.
In the best
Amazing.
condition. He is super fit and he suits the role.
And that leather.
Then the comedy that he brings, like his timing and his willingness to like go there. I don't think he's the world's best actor, but I don't think he's the world's worst. He's a very good actor, but all the other things he brings to it, like the humour, and you can tell he really leans into that.
The banter between him and Thor is just so great. And that's just the best thing.
Between him and...
you said him and Thor. We were on about Chris Hemsworth Thor?
And Chris Hemsworth and Chris Pratt. So,
So
I'm getting Chris's, like, I'm saying Chris, and then they're both called Chris. I just
They're
realised.
all called Chris, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well,
When
that
he's
end
talking
bit, where they're like, we all know who's the leader, and he's like,
me.
yeah, of course.
That's clearly a thing that sold them on the next. Like, Chris Hemsworth has signed up to do another film, and it's going to be the new Guardians because those two together are just going to be.
And the only thing is that's going to be Sean Gunn, isn't it? If Taika Waititi was doing, I'd have been super excited.
He's so great as well. He's so funny.
So what have we not discussed? So we've talked about Professor Hulk, time travel.
Yeah.
So we find
Time
out
heist.
Time heist. So
As Ant-Man
Scott,
calls it.
who would have thought that Ant-Man would have been such a big... Like when you think about who are the big players in this film, a lot of it's Ant-Man and Nebula, which I would not have expected.
And then I love that.
I do.
These films are so much about you don't expect where it's going to go.
Like Hawkeye and Ultron.
Yeah. And it's always for the good. It's not just for a shock factor as the, you thought this character is important, or you thought they weren't important. It's always, there's a reason. Every part of it it's pretty well, like the biggest leap here is what you've mentioned your problem with is the rat. That's the biggest leap. But they set it up with Doctor Strange going, it's 1 in 2, it's not even 1 in a million, it's more than 1, it's like 1 in 200 million or something like that. So I can forgive that because it is this mini shot.
I feel more happy about it now you've said that. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
You're allowed.
That's fine.
That's reinforced
every other
one moment where right at the very end and Iron Man is faced like, I'm sure we'll get to it, but you just see Doctor Strange doing that one single up. You're like, so there's billions of trillions of like little changes that could happen. And even if we've got to this end point where we're so close, there's still so many tiny little changes that can make sure this doesn't happen the way we want it to happen. And I think they did it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So he brings this idea, doesn't he, about he's been in the quantum realm. 5 years for them was 5 hours for him. So they can pull off this time heist and they go and see Tony, who rejects them because he's got his family, he's got everything he was looking for. And he mentions it, doesn't he, in Infinity War about having this dream and calling the child after her eccentric uncle, Morgan.
Yeah.
Do you know what bit I really liked at this point was the sequence where he solved time travel and he just did it.
Yeah.
And that was it. It was fine. And we didn't need this big montage of him sweating and putting an equation in and then it blowing something up and him being like, oh, duh. He just was like, what about if we throw this in here with a so-and-so? And he was like, Yeah, and he just like a shit, doesn't he? And then
And
his
his
kid's like
daughter's
shit.
there,
But it's not. They could have stretched that out for ages, but like it's not important how he does it. Like it's Tony, you know Tony, you've been with him through these films. He's extremely intelligent. You give him the tools, you give him the problem. If he wants to put his mind to it, he'll solve it, and he did, and it's done with. And both of these films are so lean. There's like not an ounce of fat on it. Every little piece is there for a reason to move things forward. And if you don't need to know it, it's a 3-hour film. And if you don't need to know it, they will cut it.
And exactly. You can imagine they shot a lot more.
Yeah.
They didn't need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unnecessary. And then there's that great scene between him and he has the bit with his daughter, but the bit with him and Pepper Potts, where he's like, I've solved it. And she's like, shuts her book. She's talking about composting. It's very Gwyneth Paltrow kind of moment. And he's like, I just want to drop it in the lake. And then she says, but can you rest? And then that line, like the fact that she just drops it in there. And the first time I saw it, I was like, yeah, whatever. And then it was the second time she said it, and I was like, oh, and it was like a gut punch. And I was like, you're going to fucking, that's going to be the last thing you say to him.
I mean, I didn't even remember that line fully when the ending happened. And the ending was still a gut punch, which says, like, you can rest. But then when you rewatch it again, and she completely understands him, and that,
yeah, that's hard.
And it's the choice of the hero, and it's the fact that he chooses to do it. He knows that he's got a lifestyle that suits him, and he's got a child that he loves and a wife, and he's got his little lodge or whatever that he still probably tinkers in the garage, however you say it. But he solves it and then chooses. And I know later he's like, but we've got to leave everything as it is, but he chooses.
Well, this is,
take the
again, how lean this film is. Any other film they would have forced Iron Man to make the choice of, like, you can either fix time, but you're going to lose Morgan, or you can leave it as it is and you keep Morgan, but everyone else is dead. He's coming in like, no, we're keeping it her.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, so what are the stakes? And they still managed to build in stakes.
He developed the most out of all the characters personally. He had the most character development from how he was at the start in Iron Man 1.
Yeah.
Look how he was like a selfish, self-centered prick.
Yeah. Womanizer.
Yeah.
Billionaire, playboy, philanthropist in his own words.
And again, a person that's so, just a bit like Thanos, just so worried about like their legacy and what they're doing, and trying to stave off death. I mean, Iron Man 2, where he's worried about dying and he's drinking himself to death because he's being poisoned. It's his own way of dealing with his mortality. And to have him have that full storyline, as you say, Laura, where he has changed so much as a person, where he willingly accepts death, a death sentence to do whatever is great.
Thanos actually says he has respect for Tony.
Yeah, which is
that's
again a great move for a villain that you just you think is could easily just be a bad guy. It's what so many. I can't remember what film we was watching or something recently, and it was just, I think some bad guys referred to themselves as a bad guy. It might have even been X-Men Apocalypse, actually, because I was watching that. But there's too many films where the bad guys refer to themselves as bad guys, and that immediately is a switch off for me, where a good bad guy never refers to them.
They don't see themselves as wrong.
Yeah.
But moving on with like time travel and things like
we
that.
need to get back onto Time Heist.
I think Captain America fighting Captain America.
That's America's ass.
That's America's ass. It is.
I love how much Scott Lang loves Captain America. Like, even when he's like, he doesn't know how to refer to him, and he's like Cap or Mr. America or something.
That's starting in Civil War, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's like gobsmacked by it.
So how did we feel about the whole time travel Hobo, I know you're a big fan of Back to the Future, and they kind of dismiss that.
They have a shit on Back to the Future.
Oh, it was so great.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, you can tell it's done with like all the love and respect.
Yeah, it's like, so your entire plan rests on a movie.
Yeah.
So Back to the Future is full of shit.
But it's ace when he's like, we've got to follow all the rules. Don't talk to your previous self. And he's like saying it so like straight
That's
face.
exactly what if someone came to me and even if I had an inkling of like there's time travel possible, I'll be like, well, these are the rules.
Yeah.
Everyone knows them. And so
Time travel 101.
Yeah.
that's where they make Scott Lang the other everyman. Like Hawkeye's a bit of an everyman, but he's a very skilled everyman. He's everyman because of his family. Scott Lang is more everyman because of his approach to things. Even though he's got a family, he's more just like, my approach to this is, this is all I can offer. Like what I know from films and TV. And
There's one part in the time travel, Hobo, that you told me about, which is a bit of a nod to Captain America comic, where he says "Hail Hydra" in the lift.
Oh yeah, people
so-
kicked off, didn't they?
no, so the Hail Hydra lift. One, it shows again how much Captain America has grown because he's that same situation he would have fought himself out of. He fought around it. He thought, I can say this. But two, in the comics, more recently, they did a storyline where Captain America is actually part of Hydra. And like one of the big issue that reveals it ends with him saying, "Hail Hydra." And it's a big deal. Like the internet blew up like, fucking hell. They've retroactively like done something to Captain America, say the entire time that you've known Captain America, he's actually been Hydra. And so people didn't like that. And so having that little nod was just beautiful. He wasn't saying he was Hydra. You knew the context, but at the same time, it was like fully...
Well, the people who knew the context, and the people who didn't, like myself at the time, I was like, I can see why he's saying that. It fits into the story. It gets him what he needs without having to have a battle.
Yeah, but you didn't think he was actually Hydra. Compared to the comic where he was actually Hydra. This context is... He's saying it. He's not actually Hydra. And it's just. But
you think he's going to fight because there's that exact scene. Which one is it in? Is it in
Winter Soldier?
Yeah, in Winter Soldier, where he's in the lift with a load of the henchmen.
One of them is the same.
Two of them. There's the bald guy with the glasses, and
I didn't think he was in the lift. I thought it was mainly the one with the hair.
Actually,
he was like the leader of all the
But
other...
there's the other guy who's also got like the scar on his lip. As well.
Oh, yeah.
And it's almost like deja vu. And you just think, oh my God, there's going to be a big, awesome fight scene again. But it's not, and he just says Hail Hydra, which I think is great. And then you see Loki. Loki's back. He's doing fine. He's alive.
And he's going off to do his own TV show now, isn't he?
That scene is setting him up for his own TV show.
It's perfect, though. It sets it up so well, and then he manages to get the Tesseract.
I don't know. That's the one thing that I'm happy that it happens so he has his own TV series, because I imagine that would be great. But it's the one thing, like, massively lingering at the end of Endgame as, like, so Loki's free. Everything else they solve, they say, we're putting everything back how it was, the stones, Thor's hammer, putting it all back. They don't.
Well, you never know, because they might start the first episode of Loki with Cap meeting it, and there might be something where he thinks he solved it. You never know. He might turn up.
So Loki, though. It is so Loki. The amount of times he's, died and come back. So it's in character for that to happen. It's all set up.
I agree it is in character for him to be sneaky. I just kind of thought when it first happened, as it was happening, I was like, oh, they're going to like catch him in some way. And then they just didn't.
Which is good.
In terms of the time travel, because we've got the time travel and then the big end, it was nice to see Tilda Swinton back. That was fine, but it's not a massive amount that we need to talk about with that bit. We've talked about Nat and Hawkeye and their bit, and then there's Tony and Steve, and then they go back to the 1970s. Really nice.
We haven't spoke about Nebula and Thanos and Gamora.
Right, because she's with War Machine, isn't she?
Yeah.
So that branches off then, doesn't it, into the next timeline?
Yeah.
Well, we'll deal with that in the end bit.
Yeah.
But there's the bit with Tony and Steve, and Tony meets his dad.
Oh, it's
and
such
Steve
a heartwarming moment. But he hugs his dad, and it's like you don't see Tony really hug anyone like that ever.
Yeah, it's nice.
And he does that like weird whisper of like I love you sort of thing.
Yeah. He's like, thank you for all your service. And then we get Stan Lee's last cameo as well. At that bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
But it's a good set piece. We get to see him with his dad, and it's not too cheesy. And again, I feel like a lot of other films would have done something like when he was like, have you got any names? And he's like, yeah, the wife wants to call him El Monzo or something.
Yeah.
Like loads of other films would have been like, oh, before you go, have you thought about Tony?
Yeah.
And like thrown in a line like that at the end. And I was so glad they didn't.
Yeah.
I was
Wasn't
like,
needed
yeah,
at all.
no, not at all.
Yeah.
But it was like nice. And he touched base with his dad without doing kind of like, and not to rip on Back to the Future because it's probably the best time travel film that there's ever been. But maybe back in the 80s or whatever, they'd have been like, have you thought about calling you good Tony?
Yeah,
When a kid sets the carpet on fire, don't get mad at him.
like, Back to the Future was probably the first thing to do it.
Yeah.
It's one of the earliest meta films referencing both something and then setting up, like saying the carpet on fire. I can't think of maybe there is, but an earlier film that references itself in that way.
I've not seen It's a Wonderful Life in a long time. That might have, or Scrooge.
And also Cap, I mean, at the time, you think his goodbye is getting to see Peggy one last time through a window, and you think, for Cap, that's enough. Because then
maybe it isn't.
His character has always been like, he's never been an excess. Tony is an excess. He would want to meet his dad and say goodbye. Cap is always I just want to see them one last time. They don't even need to know I'm there. That is the difference between those characters. So at that point in the film, you think
they've got what they
closure.
From.
Yeah.
And it's nice that they
closure.
sent Cap and Tony back together.
Yes.
That was an important thing.
Especially because he's like, do you trust me? And he's like, yeah. Like just before they go back. Because you needed that. And they didn't have... I love the bit where he gave him the shield earlier because we didn't talk about it. And I liked the fact that he took it out of his boot and it was full of like kids' toys and they just turned it upside down.
Yeah.
And like showed it in like...
Typical dad.
But typical Tony as well, that he knows what that means. And like, but he did still just throw it in his boot and there was kids' toys on it. But he'd have thrown kids' toys on it, but if he'd have really thought anything would have like damaged it or anything, he wouldn't have done.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So at this point, because we need to get towards the end, because we've been talking a long time, they've got what they needed. They come back and Nat's not there. And she fucking said, didn't she, see you in a minute before they go? Like she's the last one to say something before. And she's like, see you in a minute. And you're like, well, fucking... Have you not seen
with
Scream?
Hulk and that having that moment, like it would have almost been. They didn't have any time for it, but seeing that from his perspective of like he's standing there, sending him back, and they come back in like 30 seconds, a minute, and then he's like, didn't make it. Just, I think that's almost the way you handle her disappearance before going into that bit by the lake of where they explain why he's not coming back. And I even like the fact that they got Hulk to say like, I really tried to bring her back as well. So she wasn't even forgotten in the midst of this.
Yeah. It just would have been nice if there was a bit of a reference to her at Tony's funeral at the end. Yeah. Even if it was just something, it felt a bit like she was sidelined. So you mentioned before when they're back in time, we get this like a clash of timelines between their like network connection between new good Nebula and old Nebula, and they're connecting on the same network. And this gives Thanos the payoff, the tip off, should I say, that they're...
It's a continuation of the betrayal of Nebula accidentally in Infinity War. She accidentally betrays them by her memory showing where the Soul Stone is. In this one, her memory again shows the past versions of Thanos and Nebula, what she's doing and what they're planning, and then also what happens to future Thanos. So they head off to try and stop her and kidnap her, and they do the cool little thing where Bad Nebula has a goal. Which it reminded me of Gremlins 2, Or is it the first Gremlins? You know where the bad guy has this... It's Gremlins 2, where he's got hair and he's got like a dark streak in his hair.
Oh, yeah, a little mohawk.
Yeah. That's how you know it's bad. He's got a mohawk.
Both the bad Gremlins. In the first one, it's called Stripe because it's got a thing, and the second one, it's
all
called
bad
mohawk.
guys have like a little bit of like dyed hair or something.
So even though we said it, but Good Nebula had it after she lost parts in the first one, somehow I still attributed it with Gold Stripe Nebula as the evil one, even though she's good for like 50-50 when she's good and evil. But
so this plot line then brings Thanos back in, and like you said before, a more aggressive, younger, and not by a massive amount, but younger, less. I mean, he's not as knowing of what's going on.
Yeah.
He's less knowledgeable. Angry, aggressive Thanos back into the story. And when that happened the first time I saw it, I was like, fucking genius. Like, that is ace. The fact that you've like got rid of your bad guy at the beginning. I thought the rest of it was just going to be about time heist and how that's going to affect them personally. And then when they brought him back into the story, and then because he was further back in time, he wasn't this empathetic version that you'd seen who'd grown old and war damaged. He was the young, aggressive Thanos. I was like, you fucking nailed this. Yeah. I was like, that's ace. That is absolute like Batman storytelling.
Again, other films probably would have brought him back at the time when we're introduced to him in Infinity War, which is completely the wrong time to bring him back. You bring him back even younger than that, like you say.
It's just quality. So then they create their own gauntlet, and Hulk does his snap. I've got a couple of questions about this, and that I feel like you'll be able to answer. Like when Hulk puts it on, is it purely the power of all of the stones together that makes his arm go all burn and stuff? Because before he even snaps, he puts it on, he's like, and then his arm burns.
Isn't that in Guardians where they all hold hands because of the power of... So
that doesn't happen to Tony later. So when Tony gets the stones and puts them... Not before. When he puts them... Well, I've watched it a few times, but when he first puts them in...
When he puts it in, he's
just like, I am Iron Man. He doesn't... It's not affecting him. And I'm like, why is he not?
Is he... I'm trying to remember. Is he in his suit? He's in his suit.
He's in his suit.
So unless his suit's absorbing it, possibly.
Yeah.
But he creates a glove from his kind of suit.
Because it's nanobots.
Yeah.
Because
he's got the full suit is absorbing it.
Yeah.
Okay, I can go with that.
I mean, and it does mess him up. Obviously, he's probably just trying to redistribute the power, and he has enough line for a quippy one-liner. He redistributes it, but as soon as it happens, like it just...
Because in Avengers, Thor's hammer like boosts his suit, doesn't it? The lightning. Obviously, I know it's only lightning, but it just... He is a genius, and he probably worked his suit in a way.
Yeah.
So we get that really great moment as well. Well, I thought it was really great where he snaps his fingers and you see the birds in the trees. And I was like, that's a really clever way, again, really clever way of letting us know that it might have worked. Like just opening the blinds or whatever and then seeing those birds, and I was like, that's a really, just a really subtle way. I mean, I'm guessing maybe more people would have been working in his building. I might have just cropped back up at the time, but they might have all been on holiday.
Yeah.
It was good watching Thanos see everyone around him that he, obviously, like his children, as he called them, they were all disappearing, weren't they? Because it was like the opposite effect. So to see him see all that loss as well, it kind of put it all into perspective.
I have got a gripe with this end bit. Like the bit where they blow up his house and no one gets hurt at all.
That's a massive reach. That is
because he says put the barn doors.
Yeah.
And like so he like covers the house up, and the second time I was like, it must be because he closed the barn doors. But no,
they're
open again, and it just gets blown
fine,
to shit.
War Machine suit fine, but like
Hawkeye.
Okay, yeah.
No.
It's just
Raccoon.
yeah.
Oh.
I'm like,
that's the biggest reach in all of this.
Yeah,
I think.
both the films, I was like, no.
And they just didn't need to do that. They could have kept them in a secure location. Like maybe if they opened up one door and the phone starts ringing, so the flame ball comes in that, but they're all still relatively safe. It's doable. It's fixable.
But they completely destroy.
Yeah. And I like the idea that he comes out and immediately, he didn't fuck around. The Thanos is just like, destroy it. They're trying to stop me. Destroy it. I don't care what's in there. And as far as I'm aware, all that's in there is a bunch of fucking humans who are trying to defeat me. Destroy it. And that makes sense. That's what you do. Rather than like, if he came on a tunnel and go, Avengers, I've heard you're trying to defeat me. Let me tell you my 5-step PowerPoint plan on how I'm going to stop you.
Is he Bane?
Yeah, why do you sound like Bane?
I just wanted to do Bane voice.
So this is the end battle then. And just like overall, were you satisfied with the...
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. The female part where all the girls are together and it's such a great moment.
Yeah.
I think it's just so perfect. They don't need a man or anything like that. They just get the job done.
Well, we get that initial battle, don't we, first, where it's like a more personal one between Tony, Steve, Thor versus Thanos.
Yeah.
And this is the point where they're just having their own little battle. And he's like nearly kills Thor, doesn't he? Because he gets the
you think it's
Stormbreaker.
And
he's pushing it in his chest like he did to him.
That moment, I couldn't contain how much excitement I was when the hammer moves and it's fucking Captain America.
Oh, yes.
Wielding it. I was just like, oh.
That's like one of the best moments in cinema.
Yeah.
Like in my entire life. Like, I'm like, that is up there if I had to pick out some of my best
And it's not just that he wields it, it's how he wields it. That he wields it effortlessly.
Well,
like,
you get the power of Thor, don't you?
An extension of him. Like, he kicks Thanos' ass. But Thanos obviously still wins in the end. He's got some sort of adamantine blade. And even that bit where he's strapping up his broken hand, which is gruesome, and he's standing up against an army, like Captain America, you can tell, even though Iron Man had the best arching storyline, Captain America is still the heart of this MCU by that sheer moment that he's the one left standing against the army that's going to wipe out the Earth.
And then you hear, on your left.
Yeah. What a callback.
I am feeling the moment right now. I love it.
But do you know what the best thing is? Like, my wife has never seen Winter Soldier. But it didn't matter. It wasn't like a reference that alienates half the audience. It's fine for him to say on your left because everyone who doesn't get it, they're going to come from the left. Yeah, it's fine. But the ones who do get it, that's a fucking moment and a half. And then all the portals start opening up. Black Panther comes out. Shuri comes out. You even see M'Baku, he's in the fight at one point because I thought he got missed out.
More of the wizards, as I keep calling them.
Benedict
Doctor Strange.
Comes out.
That line is like, there's a bunch of wizards, a bunch of aliens, want a wizard or something like that.
I like the bit where he's like, you wanted more? It's like everyone. And Spider-Man comes out and Drax. And I kind of forgot about some of the people.
Yeah.
Like with every new person that came out, I was like,
oh yeah,
Drax, oh yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, Star-Lord, oh yeah, Spider-Man. And then Doctor Strange and, oh no, he came out.
I didn't cry at Black Widow dying. I was like moved by it, but I didn't cry. The bit that started getting me welling up before Iron Man was the bit where Spider-Man comes back and he starts talking to Tony Stark saying, I woke up on a planet and then a wizard came and they told us we need to get here. And just the shot of Tony Stark's face where he sort of bites his bottom lip in a weird way, or he's holding back his emotions. I was like, oh God, like that bit broke me.
Yeah.
He looked at his picture, didn't he, at the beginning, and that was when he was deciding whether he was going to throw the time heist in the lake or whatever. So that was definitely, it's been his drive.
It's like his child.
Yeah,
he sees
before his child.
Yeah. That was just such a special moment. And it's like both those films had two amazing fight scenes at the end. And I love them both equally for different reasons. Like in Infinity War, where Thor comes back, and you really hope you're going to hear the music that you hear in Ragnarok. It doesn't happen. It could have worked one more time. And I think there's these guys that I watch called Kinda Funny, and they did an MCU in review. So they watched every MCU film and rated it. And they said that as well. I was listening to their podcast, and they were like, it would have worked one more time where you hear the yeah. But just when like Thor and like Cap are like, oh, beard, you're copying me. Like, all that just works so well. And then I just both the fight scenes I loved so much.
The first Infinity War where they're saying that Thingy's not alone when she's fighting off against that, and then they have that big team up again. Endgame. It was awesome. More MCU women, which was the best. I'm doing like boobs here. I'm like, my hands are like I'm grabbing boobs as I'm saying more.
I
was kind of a big fuck you as well to people saying, "Oh, the MCU doesn't have any strong female characters." I was even surprised by the ones that turned up. I was like, "Oh fuck yeah. These are all really strong characters." And just the biggest thing is, why haven't we seen more of them in the film?
And maybe we will.
Yeah.
Because then Captain Marvel comes, doesn't she? We might have to get towards the end here, but
Captain Marvel's used exactly as she needs to do. She can't be the one who fixes everything because she's only just turned up.
Yeah, and she's too powerful.
Yeah.
So Tony dies.
Oh, so I'll do a catty here. So, when this happened and I watched it in the cinema with the Hobo at the midnight screening, I immediately thought of my little brother, Zach. So just to put in perspective to everyone, my little brother is 11 years old and he's been raised on the MCU films. He's seen them all at the cinema, the later ones in the cinema with me, and he's watched all of them on DVD. Iron Man.
His favourite characters.
Iron Man is his hero. He's got everything Iron Man related, from pants to pajamas to walkie-talkies.
To the gauntlet sticking out of a wall.
Yeah, he's got all the, well, not all of them, but most of the Avenger night lights where they stick out on the wall.
They're good, those.
I got him a hand-drawn picture of Tony Stark with his helmet up. I got that for him for Christmas.
Aww.
Just gone. He loves it. And I had to call my mum, and obviously the whole thing is don't spoil the end game, which I loved. So I'm trying to call my mum and explain it. She doesn't really mind me telling her. I asked her as well. And there's me on the train going, so, you know, Zach's favourite Avenger. I can't say anything on the train to spoil it. And I told her, and she wasn't really listening at first. And then when I told her, you know, Iron Man dies, she was like, oh shit. And my stepdad and my little brother went to the cinema to watch it.
Is he all right?
He sobbed as much as I did, probably, because I cried my eyes out. It was a really heart-wrenching moment. Like when Pepper says, you know, you can rest now. Just, I was crying.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It was, yeah.
The fact that he was pretty much brain dead, but like just like around. And she just sort of lets him let go.
Yeah. Oh,
it's just,
I'm getting emotional thinking about it.
A really good moment and a fitting end to his whole journey from basically rebooting the MCU or kicking it off in 2008 when... I mean, 2008 is when Dark Knight was released. So when DC were at their absolute height and Iron Man came out, and I remember being like, what the fuck is Iron Man? And why the fuck am I going to watch it? Like, and Downey Jr. wasn't in his like height then either. He did Tropic Thunder in the same year, but he was coming off the back of not a great deal. I was like, well, Iron Man, who cares? Watched it. Didn't watch it in the cinema, watched it when it came out. I was like, I won't bother watching it in the cinema.
I saw
to
it.
see that going from like, and it's harsh referring back to DC, but God, they have fallen so badly. And to watch Marvel take over and take it to this point, and he started it with Feige, and to finish it in that way was just perfect. Yeah. It was such a good end. Same for Cap as well.
That's what that funeral scene was about. It was
Well, it was a wedding scene, wasn't it? According to all the actors.
What?
The actors were told it was a wedding.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's where I showed you that video of all of them filming. And I showed Chris, so I went to see my friends in the week. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, there's a video that's just been released, and all of them were told they weren't allowed to have their phones out. And a lot of the actors have posted things now that it's all out, saying this is the weirdest wedding scene we've ever been a part of. But then there were people absent from the scenes, so they couldn't piece it together, but they were told it was a wedding scene, but it was actually Tony's funeral. I'll show you guys afterwards the clip, but everyone's got their phones out, and this is really funny. They're like, we're not supposed to have our phones out, but here you go.
Yeah, it was a big salute. It was a big thank you, and yeah, it's well deserved.
And he is, I mean, him and Cap, because again, we probably have to be quite quick, but Steve Rogers uses the stones to go back and spends his life with Peggy. He had his like big peak in the fight. I think he had the Mjolnir moment. He had the Avengers Assemble bit. The worthiness, but his nice little quiet ending, him coming back as an old man.
Got his dance.
Yeah, perfect.
He didn't want a big end. Again, he's the quiet to Tony Stark's loud. He is Tony Stark is a loud, and everyone thanks him for doing what he did. And Cap is the quiet. I just did my duty. I just did what I had to do.
So gonna have to sum up at this point.
Okay.
So I mean, it's luxurious cheese.
Definitely luxurious cheese.
Same here.
I would say that these two films together are two of the best films that I've ever seen in my life. And what was really nice was appreciating that in the moment. How often do you go and see a film and think, I think this might be one of my favorite films of all time? And then it actually happening. Like most of the time it sneaks up on you, or like I didn't really realize how much I enjoyed Lord of the Rings at the time until I was in it, or Harry Potter, or like I watched Star Wars on video as a kid and things like that. But like going to the cinema as an adult and being aware of it and not being let down, like hats off to them.
I agree. I feel like this is the moment I didn't get to experience of Star Wars, where I know that Star Wars, if I got to see that at cinemas when it came out originally, I would have been all over it like this and more. This is my attempt at getting to Star Wars and seeing.
Well, it's going to be talked about for years. This is like you said, the Star Wars and even the Harry Potters. Like it's really important that everyone's going to say in years and years. Like I went and saw that at the cinema. And for me, like I'm 25, so these films came out when I was in my mid-young teenage years, and these definitely like shaped me. I love those films, and they're really special to me as well. They're like one of my favorite films. Yeah.
Anything else you want to say on that note?
No,
I mean, we've been talking for a while, haven't we?
Yeah.
Could double this and keep talking.
I could honestly go on and on about these films.
Yeah,
they are
there's plenty
so
of stuff
great.
we haven't discussed. But I think the main thing is that a lot of films miss out is we've just focused on characters. We're not focused on we've talked about set pieces and stuff, but generally we focus about how we like the characters and their arcs. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I am.
Until next time.
We can all rest.
We can all rest.
That's not where that music comes in. Iron Man's funeral. Wait a minute.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Spoilt Milk Movie Podcast, you pieces of fucking shit.